If you write down 3 things of gratitude every day, like one thing you're thankful for, something you're looking forward to or whatever, before bed, that actually rewires your brain and reduces your inflammation in your body.
Oh, wow.
It's wild,
Oh,
and it
that's
works.
amazing.
Yeah, so
I
there's
think words have energy too,
yes.
right? They really do.
Yes.
Because when people say negative things, you feel it, it's heavy.
Yeah. Yes, and especially when you're a sensitive being, and we're all sensitive beings. We were born to be sensitive beings, but unfortunately society has created this, meow, keep you in the box and, like, downgrade your energy, but we're meant to be connected. We're meant to be sensitive. We're meant to be intuitive. We're meant to be, energetically connected to people, because when I see you, you are me, and I am you. We are connected.
Hey guys, thank you for joining the Five Flavors of Happiness. I am so excited about our guest today. She is Kristine Woods. She has a background in special education and also a theater arts background performing. So we have that in common, me and you, because I do as well. But she might have gone a little bit further than me because she was a semi-professional musical theater performer and dance teacher. So super cool background. And then the really interesting thing, and what we're going to dive in today, is a disability that kind of sidelined that. But I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say that maybe we learned something from it and kind of readjusted our life because she's sitting here smiling. So, if you have a disability and you're able to come out on the other side and still be happy and smile, then we have a lot to unpack. So Christine, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. It's so great. I'm excited.
Awesome. So, talk to us about what happened. Tell me about when you were diagnosed, or what was the impetus to find out the diagnosis, and how did it unfold?
Yeah, it's a big, big question. um, yeah, so basically, about 6 years ago, I was running in a forest and I had this sensation go up the back of my head, and it wasn't pain, but it was something odd, not normal. And so my brain said, stop running. So I stopped running. I used to run all the time. I was like very, very active. And so I walked back to my vehicle and I drove home and I didn't feel quite right, but I was okay. And then the next morning when I woke up, I had like a sensation where I was like kind of falling to the left. Like I just couldn't kind of keep myself upright. And then I noticed by dinner time, I should have gone to the hospital probably, but I didn't. And, I'm like, oh, I'm a busy mom and I have 2 little ones and I'm fine. Like, brush it off. But by that evening, after dinner, we always went for a walk with our children, kind of around this loop. And I couldn't keep up to them. And they were little, like
Oh,
little, little. And my husband at the time was, he says, like, why can't you keep up? Like, what's going on with you? I'm like, I don't know. I'm telling my legs to walk, but they're not walking. Like, I don't understand. So, anyways, so that was concerning. So the next morning, I called my doctor, got in. I thankfully got in that day. He did a neurological exam, and he was like, "Okay, well, there's some things happening. Let's refer you to a neurologist." But if anyone knows how long that takes, especially when you live in Canada, sometimes it's great healthcare system, but also you have a wait list. So I had no idea when I was going to get in. Well, 2 days after that, it just every day it progressively got worse. So I started falling to the left. I couldn't walk
oh
properly.
no.
I was like really exhausted, like I couldn't stay awake. Um, I had a lot of symptoms. My symptoms were growing, my symptom load. So by that Friday, he did another exam and it had gotten worse. So he put in like an emergency kind of referral, contacted them and said like she needs to get in right away. Anyways, thankfully I have a friend who is an emergency room doctor, lovely soul, and she said they have an MRI spot every day. Go in first thing Monday morning, and so I went in at like 5 in the morning, and I just kept getting worse and worse. By that Monday, so that was Friday, the last exam. By Monday, my entire left leg was paralyzed, and I had a drop foot. And yeah, so I couldn't, and I had to like have help walking. I couldn't stand up straight. I was like, it was really bad. I had like like really severe migraine. Um, my eyes, I had a drooped eye, like I think it was the side. Nope,
Oh,
it was my right side.
so
I can't remember. So yeah, it was severe. And so when I went in, they kept asking me like, "Have you had a concussion? Have you had a concussion? Did you fall? Did you hit your head? Like what?" And I just explained I was running in the forest and this is what happened. I haven't hit my head. Like I don't understand what's going on. Like I'm a dancer by background. I don't like this isn't normal for me. Like I'm very in touch with my body. Like I'm, solid that way. So they thankfully put me into the MRI slot of that day. And the doctor was amazing. And they said, they brought me into a separate room and I was like, oh, this is not good. And they called my husband and he came and they diagnosed me with progressive MS. And it was interesting because, of course, you're devastated, and the nurse I'm friends with him now, actually, which is quite funny, but, then the nurse told me at the time, "Go on a vacation with your family because you won't be able to walk within 6 months. You'll be fully wheelchair bound." Like, it was, like,
oh my god.
devastating. Yeah. So, anyways, which, of course, brings up all the emotions. Um, but that evening, my doctor thankfully called me. She was great, and she said, "I've worked in neurology before." So she contacted a neurologist, and he said, "I don't think it's MS. I think it's something else based on your presentation." So they dug a little further. I went and I got into an MS clinic. He said it's not MS. He said it could be, rheumatological. So I was sent there. They thought maybe it was lupus. It's not that. So then they sent me to a neurologist. So after it was end of May when I first started getting symptoms, and I got in October to a neurologist. Um, I was diagnosed with functional neurological disorder. And so it used to be considered rare, but it's not. It's the second most common neurological disorder after migraines. It's actually before MS now. And so, yeah, so I'm gonna backtrack just a little bit before that. Within that time, my symptoms got severe, like severe shooting, like zapping pains, like take me to the ground. I couldn't speak properly, like my speech was affected, my walking was affected. I had a gait issue, so this left leg, I walked like I had Parkinson's, so it looked a lot like this. Tremors, paralysis, bladder issues, seizures started in August. I basically couldn't function. I couldn't spell. I couldn't write a sentence. Like it was severe, severe, severe. So basically, I had to be looked after. We had two little ones. They were um, 6.5 and 5.5 ish. Or sorry, 4.5. They were pretty little. And I was a stay at home mom. I was a homeschool special ed teacher at the time, but also taught in the evenings musical theater and did dance and taught dance and performed. So yeah, so it was crazy. It was very, very crazy. So got diagnosed with FND. I actually also went the alternative route and got diagnosed with chronic Lyme. So I also have chronic Lyme disease. And yeah, so basically, I believe that when I saw finally the next neurologist for FND, because the one that diagnosed me couldn't keep me on his caseload, so I ended up seeing going to a special program, which is now sadly now closed, but it was a nonprofit. And he was the one that said, "Yes, you had a concussion for sure," based on I was in a musical, and it was a '70s musical, and we wore these big, big, big wigs and had these flashy costumes. It was super fun. But I had to do this head whipping action where I did this to the side quite like a lot. And so he said, for sure, the velocity of doing that action and your brain like hitting inside your skull, would cause concussion. And you probably didn't realize you were kind of like your brain was swollen and then you were running and then it kind of caused the downfall. So, yeah. So
Wow.
it was very hard and intense.
Yeah.
And that was 6 years ago, so, um, yeah, I have a lot more to say on that topic, but I'll stop there, and,
But you
yeah.
look so well. How are you doing today?
Yeah, so it's been 6 years.
Okay.
I always tell people I'm the model FND patient. It's really tricky because all of my even though he said, you had a concussion, He wasn't the neurologist in the room, like in the emergency room, so he couldn't actually like diagnose me with that. He just said yes, like that, all of the it all fits. So we believe that the concussion kind of like set off again some autoimmune things for me and some like just general inflammation in my body and in my brain. And so when he went back, he did a full, like a very detailed history. My first episode, and they call them kind of major like episodes or flare ups, was when I was 21, and um, I have kind of little symptoms when I was even as a teenager. I can look back and see like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. Maybe it was that. But when I was 21, I was vaccinated within a period of 2 weeks to go overseas, and I had a lot at once. And I got really sick when I was in Korea. And when I got home, I was diagnosed with a severe like neurological pain condition that came on very, very intensely. So that was like kind of my first major flare up. And then a lot, basically, my health stuff really got severe after that. So that was kind of my first flare, chronic pain, chronic inflammation. I'd never had anxiety or depression before. That was like severe. And so it was very foreign to me. Like I was, I've always been a very positive person, like managed life very well. Yeah, so that was kind of the start of it all. And then as I went through life, like just, go to the naturopath, clean eating, detoxing, doing all the things that people do when they get ill and they're trying to figure things out for themselves. And so I did all of that. So got myself to a place where you know, healed myself to a degree where I could function and I could go back to work and I still was working, but it was just, you're dealing with things all the time. So
Sure.
yeah, so six years in, I run all the Canada support groups for FND Hope Canada, which is under FND International, FND Hope International. But I do all the things. So I exercise every day, whether it's walking to the mailbox and back or going on a bike ride, because my symptoms are functional. So it's called functional neurological disorder. So it's inflammation in the brain, and what happens is it's a disconnect at the synapses and where the kind of the brain connects. And so where that disconnect is, which is caused by sensory overload or pain in the body or just doing too much, like overload energetically, will cause my symptoms. And because your brain runs everything in your body, it wherever it's glitching is where it will cause the symptoms. So functional means like today I'm up and walking and my leg is fine, but on a day that, it's a poor day, I'm often in bed. I have, chronic migraines, I have chronic pain, it's all getting so much better. I have a gait disorder, so this left leg always kind of affects me. Um, I have a seizure disorder, so I have regular seizures, or seizure-like symptoms that kind of build. Uh, but I know it's like every year I get a little bit better, a little bit better. But I do a lot for my body. I meditate every day. I rest every afternoon. I have to be on my sleep hygiene. I have to monitor my screen time. I can't do a lot of screen time. It really affects me. I eat very clean. I don't eat any sugar. Like I'm like super, super careful. I exercise regularly. I do yoga. Like I am a full-time job. And so it's funny, people will say to me, like, "What are you doing now? You're on disability, so you have all this time." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you don't get it." Like, I have to rest every day. Like, it's mandatory. Like, I can't people are like, "Oh, you're going to have a nap. That's so nice." I'm like, "No, like, my brain won't function, and I'll have a seizure that night if I don't rest." Like, this is what my life looks like. So but I'm getting there. I'm getting there, and, yeah, I'm thankful my daughters keep me going. My partner's I have a new partner and he's so great. He gets me out. He's an adventurer, so he's like, "Get in the car, we're going." And yeah, so it's a good life. It's hard, but it's a good life.
So I'm hearing so much positivity from you. You have such a beautiful spirit. And I don't know if I would have been able to bounce back emotionally from that, and I think there's probably a lot of people who get, or who are in a predicament, and it's hard for them to bounce back. It's hard for them to smile, to find joy in the world. So, how did you do that? How are you shining so bright right now? Did you just make that choice? How did you reconcile all of this? And maybe with the higher power, with spirit, with God, with whatever speaks to you. How did you get here?
It's such a good question. I've always been a glass half full person, and I've always been that person that's like, I have quotes in my house, and like I'm always the uplifter, and like, come on guys, let's come together, like let's do this. And I call myself, I'm a rallier. I always say like I'm rallying, let's go. And so I've always been that person, and I'm very outgoing. So me being stuck in my house was very, very hard for me. That was probably one of the hardest things. Because I was completely isolated. Like I call it the starfish. On my starfish days, I have no arms or legs, and I can't hold my
Oh,
phone. I can't do anything. So I just like stare at the ceiling. So there are days where I have. Thankfully, it's fewer and far between. But if I overdo it, it's like I don't get punished. I don't like that word, but my body just absolutely needs complete and utter rest from everything. So a year and a half in, it was probably about a year in, just over a year. And I see this consistently in the sport groups that I run. It's like a year to a year and a half, people are at their lowest. And I'm, suicidal ideation for sure. Like not wanting to be on this earth, feeling like I was a burden to my family, to my husband at the time, to my children, to my extended family and friends. Like I'm just like I'm a burden. I don't want to be here. And I basically was like, put me in an apartment somewhere. I'll just like live on my own. Like you don't have to worry about me. I'll like figure it out. Like that whole selflessness, right? So that was very, very hard. And so I had to accept the diagnosis. And they always say like that's the best way to go about it. And it's funny because when I didn't have a diagnosis yet, it was almost easier because I just kind of went into go mode and I researched and I um, did all the things that I knew to get well. I cleansed, sat in the sunshine, like I meditated. But it's almost like when you get this diagnosis too, it's very challenging because, when you have MS or you have cancer or you have something that people know about, I find, people kind of rally around you or the death of a loved one or whatever. But with this, because it's not known and it's oftentimes in the past, the research is showing now that it's not, but in the past, it was termed as like hysteria or psychological. Yeah.
really?
Yes. So,
Mm.
yeah. So the research thankfully is showing that only about like 2% have purely psychological reasons for their brain not functioning. But now all the research is showing it can be like a trauma to the body. So it can be a surgery. I have a friend who woke up out of surgery and literally can't walk now. Like, and there's nothing wrong with her brain. She just can't walk and has gotten significantly worse. I have people who've been in a car accident this has happened to. People that have had vaccines, this has happened to. People who have had a major trauma, like a death of a loved one or a child, or childhood adversity. This has happened too. So it's not caused from anxiety and depression. But the problem is that the research is now catching up. But so when you go on and look up FND, functional neurological disorder, in the past, I mean, we're 6 years in now, so you'll see a lot more information, but it was like, "Oh, it's psychological." So, of course, and people don't know about it, so you get forgotten about, basically.
Yeah.
And in the Canadian system and in the States too, it's quite poor, but, we had very, very limited doctors, very limited information, and so when I go to the emergency room, which is very, very infrequent because they don't really do anything for me, I have to advocate for myself. I have to, like, the last time I was there, I was having such severe seizures because mine they can go on for like 45 minutes and my meds
Oh
weren't.
my.
So when my partner brought me in because I couldn't breathe, I have apnea with it, and he was concerned about my oxygen levels. And so when I went in, I was in between seizures telling the doctor about FND and educating him on FND. Like, that's how bad it is.
Oh my God.
And so it depends on the doctor you get. I find that the younger doctors are best because they are a little bit educated about it, and are more inquisitive and like self-learners, like they'll do the research. Some doctors are really great. Like that one doctor was like, "You are the pro, you know what you're talking about. Like it's very obvious." But then the next time I went in when my seizures would not stop all day long, um, I was treated very poorly. And that's really hard
Yeah.
because they're like, "There's nothing we can do for you." And they say like, this is not a medical issue," is what he literally told me. And then they just leave. They just dismiss you. And I'm literally in the bed, like seizuring, and you have to leave. Like there's nothing they can do. And I live in a small town, so that's not helpful. Um, but it's really hard because literally my mom was with me at the time and she had to look after me. And my dad too. They took turns. In this last flare up last June, I was having up to 15 seizures a day. And so it's a very helpless feeling because you go home and there's nothing you can really do. Thankfully, I am a big supporter of alternative medicine, and um, there's so much research now on psilocybin and microdosing to actually create neurogenesis in your brain and help with the connection. So my partner said, "Hey, like we haven't tried this. Let's try it." So I literally went from 15 seizures a day to 4 to 1,
Mhm.
and then it started spacing out. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
in Canada we can talk about more things. But um but yeah, so I use psilocybin regularly, microdosing to improve my brain, and it's very much helped.
That's wonderful.
And it's supported by research. So so that's basically, where I'm at now. And I'm very spiritual. I'm very, very connected.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the spiritual side. And do you find yourself, because you're telling me about how you're doing yoga and you're doing all of these wonderful things to help heal yourself. And when you do yoga, you end up feeling much more connected. And especially if you're thinking about Eastern medicine, it's much more about the holistic you. So how do you feel spirit is, do you feel spirit around you? Do you feel like you are intuitively being sent to certain doctors, or maybe you intuitively found that microdosing was going to help? Like, talk to me about that and
Yeah,
how
thanks.
it's helped.
Yeah, so it's been a journey. Like even 6 years ago when I first got ill, like I knew I was a Christian for over 25 years. Like I was very, very connected with church and God, and I've always prayed, and I've always been connected that way. I've always had a higher power, connecting me. And right before I got ill, I actually stopped going to church because something just wasn't feeling right for me. It was leaving me feeling like there was something missing. It's like I knew there was more, and I like really good at listening to my body usually. So when I first got sick, it was interesting because I remember this moment when I was fully like laid out. I could only, lay on the couch or in bed, and I would just when you go through a situation like that, you really evaluate and you look at things so differently. So you learn to appreciate the light that's coming through the window and the bird that lands on the branch. I had this beautiful um, Stellar J couple that would be outside my kitchen window. And so I would sit in my little walker, like my walking chair seat, and I would scoop my feet up and I would just watch them. And I swear they were sent for me. Um,
Really were.
sorry. And I would just watch them and like just be like, they're so beautiful and they were so in love. And when you go through something like that, you really just appreciate all the little things and you think like, how can I do life better? How can I be a better mother, a better wife, like a better, just a better a friend, or just looking at things like I hate the color of this wall. Like, why did I paint it this color? Or like, why do I live in this house? I actually don't like this house, you know? And so you really reevaluate. So I knew that it was a spiritual awakening for me. It was like the start of that for me. And I did a lot of prayer and I did a lot of like just listening and connecting and intuitive listening. And I've always been intuitive. I've always, like, even when I prayed over people, I've had messages and visions and words show up. And there's always been, that's been a huge part of my life, like always. And so, and I'm just really intuitive. It's like it's a knowing, it's a problem solving. I just have it. So anyways, that kind of has developed over this time. And last June, when I had this big flare up and this round of intense seizures, I knew that it was like, for me, I think of it as like an energetic upgrade, as some people would say. And I was getting a lot of visions, a lot of information, just and I felt like at first, of course, it's very scary because you go to like the immediate, like this is happening and I can't look after my children. I can't, do this and that. I'm literally stuck in bed. But then once I just surrendered, and I remember this one time when the seizures were, and I was like, okay, why am I fighting this? Like, I'm just going to surrender. Like, there's nothing else I can do. It's like spirit, God, source. Um, you're so connected. You're divinely connected to source and to spirit and to God. And, you know, however that looks for you, you're so connected and it's like it's in you. And so I just totally surrendered. And um, after that, that's when I started psilocybin, like within like a day or two. And then I started getting better. I kind of started coming out of my flare and it was like quite quick. But while I was having seizures, I had a lot of like, messages and information and intuitive stuff kind of coming to me. And I just started writing it down and listening and
What was it
felt,
saying? What are some of the messages? I'm so
I
curious.
know, I know. Um, so I had a lot of visions. One of the things that came was I saw like two sides of a coin. And I was told that I was like an intermediary, like a person who kind of kept the peace on either side. And so that's kind of when the seizures were happening. It was when it was kind of, they were relating it to like a past life or like a flashback because I saw visions of war and me being on one side and like in this castle actually. And it was like medieval times. And then there was this war, but I was like the peacekeeper and the one to like ensure that everything was going to be okay. And I was like the person that would speak to the general and the person to kind of keep things at bay and stop the fighting. So in this, and it sounds absolutely wild and crazy. I understand that. I was like, what is happening? But in that, you know, I've always been that person. I've always been the intermediary person. I'm the person that brings people together and the peacekeeper. And so that happened. I had that flash. I had other pictures of where I'm going when I leave this earth. And that was profound. Like for me, it was like a heaven. Um, and I saw go ahead.
So, do you think you went to the other side?
Don't know. I think the veil is so thin. I feel like energetically, and for people that are understanding, we're moving up in dimensions from the third dimension to the fifth dimension in our world. And so the veil is getting thinner. And so we are becoming more intuitive. We're becoming more connected. And so I feel like, and I just got spirit shivers. That's what I call them. I feel like this is a way for, the divine to instruct me and tell me like you have bigger purpose. You are going to be okay. This is the next stage of your life. And so, yes, I feel like I don't feel like there is another side in a way. Like I feel like, you leave this body, but energetically you're the same person. And when you move to the other side, it's like the veil is so thin. It's hard to understand unless you've lived it, unless you've been there. And I realize I was like, when I tell people these stories, I'm like, I realize how wild this sounds, but it's real lived experience. And like, I'm mentally well, like my depression, anxiety scores are nil and I'm not on any meds because of it. And, um, yeah. And then basically from there, I started getting messages. And so I, started getting messages for my partners, mother who passed about a year and a half ago. And so I would, because I would get up and write them down, and I would hear what she was saying. And I would ask her, like, don't let me forget, like, please, like, and so I would have like paragraphs that I would write to him from her. And I would bring up like images and pictures of like other things. And then that just kind of naturally started happening. And that's kind of always happened to me. Like, I've called people at the right timing, or if I picked up the phone. I remember my mom called me when my nana passed, and I'm like, my nana's passed, hey? And she's like, how did you know? I'm like, I just know.
Wow.
So that's always kind of happened to me. I've always been a little bit different in that way. I'm a very sensitive person. I've always been highly sensitive. And, you know, I see it as a blessing now. I used to, sometimes it's hard, but it's such a blessing because I'm so connected and I am very sensitive. And yeah, so now it's kind of like taken in this new form. And it was interesting because in September of this past year, I speak regularly to the higher power, to my guides, because I know there are people like kind of like helping me with my life, whether that's like my past loved ones or just people that have been instilled in my life. And I connect with them regularly. I've even, I know their names and I know what they look like, um, which has all been shown to me through meditations and also through just asking and speaking to my guides before bed. And even sometimes just walking in the forest, I'll get, downloads, I call them. But I regularly, you know, go to source. I go to my guides. I regularly pray and meditate. And it may look different than it did as a Christian, for sure, a little bit, but it's the same premise, it's the
Awesome.
same feeling. It's the same, I get the same, um, you know, overall energetic feeling, my vibration. I can just feel it. I elevate myself. And in September, going back, I had this one night when I was praying and meditating before sleep and asking my guides for help and for my moving forward with my health and just answers. And I had this little sensation on the back of my head. And I heard the words, you are now in your new body. Like, you're now in your new life. Like, you're stepping into your new life.
Oh, wow.
And so I just kind of was like, wow, like, and it's when people don't understand. And I like, as a Christian, I thought like all of this stuff was bad, like, don't meditate because it will open you up to bad things. And, um, you know, this is all darkness. And for me, like, I don't practice any of that. Like, I set my intention, I come with positivity and light, and I like, I protect myself and I ask those things are not here. But I've never once had a bad experience. And it's always just been positive, and it's the same feeling energetically that I get when I used to pray and I used to be overcome with the Holy Spirit, like that. It's the
Mhm.
same for me. Feels slightly different, but I just have this like vibration. And so I've had many instances now where I've been, not well, or I woke up once from a nap. And in that state where you're kind of coming out of your sleep and you're coming into like your awakened state, there's that kind of, you're in this groggy kind of area.
Sure.
I kind of came out of it and I felt like every single cell in my body was lit up. I can't even explain it. It's like, that feeling of love when you're like, it's just that intense feeling of love. It's like that times 1,000. But your whole every little, like, molecule and cell was just lit up inside my body. It's, like, indescribable. Like, I felt like I was just emanating, like, throughout the room. And then I heard singing over top of me, a woman's voice, and it was just like it wasn't a song, but it was, like, this melodic, beautiful voice, and I just was
Oh
and
my god, was that an angel?
it was so beautiful. I believe that it was one of my guides, but it could have been an angel, but I'm pretty sure it was one of my guides who comes to me often. And then it all happened in an instant, right? It's like it was so quick. And then I also in my mind's eye, you can't see it, but it's like a drop in. You don't take time to think about it. It just happens. It just comes. you're not even thinking about anything and it just comes. So this is how it works for me. But I saw these like codes, like symbols, and they would call them codes, or light codes is what people would say.
Okay.
But and it was like streaming into my body. It was like a visual of it streaming. So I'm getting sung over. I have this streaming over my body, and I have this like light. And I wanted it to. When I woke up and fully woke up, it stopped. I don't actually think it stopped because I'm like just consciously. I was in my conscious mind now. And so it stopped, and I was like, I want that to happen again. Like, I want to go back." And so I tried to like get back to that state, which of course didn't happen because I jumped out of it. Um, but I thought to myself, like, man, like if this is happening in my sleep, like how wild is that? Like how powerful is that? That like you can ask for healing, through God, through source, and you will be given it. And you may not know it, but if you're asking you shall receive, that famous
Uh-huh.
quote. And so I still have hard days, but like I feel like the more that I work with spirit and the more that I sit with my guides and sit with God, it just transforms me. And I'm making my way to getting better. And I'm having insights as to like even my medications and my naturally what to do. And I'm being told to go into the forest and ground. So I'm doing a lot like I did that before, but like they're like, go back to that barefoot walking, meditating by the river, sitting in this morning sunlight. Like it's it's been a journey, a wildly awesome journey that I
Wow.
would never take back. Like
Well,
I would,
whoa.
I would never,
Wow. So then you wouldn't want to not have that happen.
yeah. Like my old life was
Oh,
great. I was super active. I was healthy. I was fit. But I didn't know that I wasn't happy, but I wasn't like I wasn't intuitively like connected with myself.
uh
I was very dissociated from myself, which I didn't know until you get to this place where you're at now, where you're like, ah,
right.
um, I've always been a very loving, connected mom, but like now it's just so different. It's so because I cherish everything now, you
Yes,
know?
attitude of gratitude. It changes everything.
It
It really
really
does.
does.
I just want to ask you one last question. So, what guidance or advice would you give somebody who maybe was just given a diagnosis? And because you were there, you know what that feels like. What words of wisdom would you have for them so they could get to you that beautiful place that you're at right now?
Mm. Ooh, that makes me teary. I think we're in society so stuck in this world of a doctor gives you a diagnosis and you follow the prescription and you listen to what they say. And, I was told like, you're not going to walk again. Like you're going to be in a wheelchair full time. And I was told like so many hard things. Like I was told by my specialist, you will always have this disorder. You're just going to have to manage the symptoms. Like I just want like, don't believe in the death sentence. It's like your body innately wants to heal itself and source wants to help you heal. And so I just got spirit shivers. So it's this feeling for me. It's like this tingly feeling that goes through my body, and it's my way of knowing that like what I'm saying is from spirit, like it's connected and it's truth. And so um it's really really important to innately listen to your body, not what other people are saying, but like what truly do you need to know about your body and about your life and about yourself to create healing. Look at everything. Like now I explain, like we're an energetic being. So I think of it as like a ball, like, those playground balls that we played Foursquare with and like bouncing on the playground. When you hit them or you kick them and it gets like a bulge on the side.
Mhm.
So I think about that, like when it's like energetically pure, the ball is bouncing well. But when you get a bulge on the side, it's like something's happened. It's thrown that energy out of whack. And because we're like, and this is all quantum physics, like I love quantum physics, by the way. There's so much behind it. There's so much science behind it. When our energetic being is out of out of kilter or out of whack or something is not aligned, you are going to have symptoms no matter what, whether that's a chronic migraines, whether that's chronic fatigue, whether that's inflammation in your joints, whether that's cancer, like you're going to have symptoms. So anything that's happening in your body because it's an energetic being is thrown off. We're an energetic system. Everything talks to each other. And so we need to keep that in alignment, how we feed ourselves, what we say to ourselves, how we
Oh
speak
god,
to
yeah.
ourselves.
That's so important. I'm so glad you said that because we speak to ourselves so negatively so
It's
much.
terrible. So even when I just got more shivers. So even when I speak now, I don't say I'm having a BAD day. I'll
Uh-huh.
just say I'm having I'm having this isn't my strongest day, or I'm having a rest day, or um, I really am careful, or like I treat my brain with love. Like my Instagram is this beautiful brain, and it's like our brain, we have to love ourselves and we have to like appreciate what we have and the powerhouse of our brain and how that's connected not only to like our bodies, but our brain is there for our spiritual connectionness too. And yeah, so I think it's very important to look at your life. Are you happy in your relationship? What is your friend, or do you have a close knit friend or family group? That doesn't even have to be family. It can be your friends or your family. Do you get enough sleep? Do you have too much screen time? Look at how much the internet has
Ugh.
affected our mental health and our lives.
Yep,
Do you get
absolutely.
out in the sunlight and outdoors? Do you eat well? Do you fuel your beautiful body that you've been given with good, healthy, nutritious food? Um, and the speaking to yourself is massive. Like that's the one thing I've really started to hone in, and it's making a big difference. Even like they've shown that if you write down 3 things of gratitude every day, like one thing you're thankful for, something you're looking forward to or whatever, before bed, that actually rewires your brain and reduces your inflammation in your body.
Oh, wow.
It's wild
Oh,
and it
that's
works.
amazing.
Yeah. So
I
there's,
think words have energy too,
yes.
right? They really do.
Yeah.
Because when people say negative things, you feel it, it's heavy.
Yes. And especially when you're a sensitive being. And we're all sensitive beings. We were born to be sensitive beings, but unfortunately, society has created this, keep you in the box and like downgrade your energy. But we're meant to be connected. We're meant to be sensitive. We're meant to be intuitive. We're meant to be, energetically connected to people, because when I see you, you are me, and I am you. We are connected. And that is, the entire world. Like that's how we're supposed to live and in community. And so unfortunately, we've gone so far away from that. It's like, how do we go back to finding that? Even
Right.
in ourselves and just in our immediate community. So that was a long-winded question. Sorry.
Oh
An answer.
my god, Christine, I love you. This is such a great conversation. I could talk to you all day. Um, but okay, this is the very end of the podcast. If you have one more minute, because we always like to end on a high note, and I ask 5 really quick questions, and you just give me like one word answers. It's real short and fun.
Okay, I'll be short. I promise.
Okay.
I'm a talker.
So, if happiness was a season, what would it be? Which season?
Ooh, for me, I think spring. Yeah, because of the
Spring.
life of the flowers and the sunshine. Mhm.
Rebirth. Okay, love it.
Totally.
Okay. If you need to find happiness fast, if you have to get out of your funk, what do you do to get there?
For me, I drop
Yes.
everything, and I even my girls know this, we used to homeschool, and so I'd say, "It's drop everything time," because we were getting into this, drop everything, go outside, no matter what the weather is. If you can, take off your shoes and ground and just be mindful. Mindfulness is huge also. That's one thing I haven't talked about. But ground yourself, mindfulness, presence in the forest, breathe.
Oh my god, I love that. I don't you don't know this about me, but I wrote a poem called Barefoot, and it's all about my daughter would she'd kick off her shoes and she'd walk barefoot. And I at first I was like, "Oh, you should put on your shoes." And then I was like, "You know what? You just be you.
That's
Take off
right.
those shoes. Be barefoot." Okay.
So good.
Um, what's one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Been doing a lot of self work lately. Immediately, I'm like, "Whoop." Immediately, the first thing that comes to there's so many things, but the first thing that comes to my mind is just be you and be in touch with you.
Mm.
Don't
And
worry
don't
about
change.
don't worry about the outside world, what people are telling you, your parents are telling you should do, keeping up with the Joneses. Just listen to what you need. That's all you need. And what source is your connection with source.
Beautiful. Okay, 2 silly ones. If happiness was a color, what color would it be?
Yellow.
Yellow! Love it.
Definitely yellow.
My car is yellow. Okay,
Oh, really?
very
Okay.
last yes, I have a yellow
I
car.
had a
It's so
yellow Volkswagen
silly.
Cabriolet convertible at one point in time, and it was my favorite. It was my jam.
Right? Because it just screams happiness and it's
Yeah.
so easy to find it in a parking lot. Okay.
Yes.
The very last question. If happiness actually was a food or a flavor, what would it taste like?
I'm not a sweets person, so I love Vietnamese food. Anything Vietnamese food, love it.
Oh,
So for me, it would be that.
I have to try it.
No, it's
My
so
last
good.
one was chocolate. I usually get chocolate.
Nope,
So thank you for giving me something different.
I like chocolate,
Well,
but I'm
thank
not a
you
big sweet tooth.
so much for coming on. It has been such a pleasure to talk to you, to get to know you, to feel your energy and vibe with you. Such a joy. And folks, if you made it to the end of the podcast, thank you so much. And I am so grateful for you. So please like and subscribe so that you can be informed the next time a super cool podcast drops. Thanks, guys.